From the Cronkite studios in downtown Phoenix, this is Cronkite News.
Members of Arizona's delegation take to the House floor, speaking out about a bill that could give dreamers a pathway to citizenship.
Also, a city in Mexico is receiving a very special gift from the city of Mesa. Find out how an abandoned ambulance is a big help to this community.
And with monsoon season vastly approaching, the National Weather Service and other agencies are teaching the community how to plan ahead.
Cronkite News starts now.
Good evening and welcome to Cronkite News on Arizona PBS. I'm Kyla Wilcher.
And I'm Owen Evans. Thank you for joining us.
The House passed a bill creating a pathway to citizenship for dreamers.
House Resolution 6 passed mainly along party lines. The debate on the bill lasted several hours.
Members of Arizona's delegation spoke out for and against this bill. Julian Paras has the latest, live from our Washington bureau.
Just like the rest of the House, Arizona's congressional delegation split along party lines today on the DREAM Act. Democrats called it a badly needed move, while Republicans say it's just a bad move.
Congressman Greg Stanton, a longtime supporter of the DREAM Act, said it will help the young immigrants who are in this country illegally, but that it will also help the state and the nation.
That is a great thing to give these young people who came here through no choice of their own the maximum opportunities for success, opportunities for in-state college tuition at ASU and the other great universities that we have in the state of Arizona, to take these young people out of the shadows and bring them fully into our economy.
The bill would end the threat to deportation for dreamers, people who were brought here illegally and know no other country than the U.S. But it would also extend those protections to others and create a pathway to citizenship, which critics say goes too far.
My home state of Arizona is at the forefront of the crisis on our nation's southern border. But the bill before us today offers no solutions and will instead, I believe, exacerbate the problem.
Republicans repeatedly said that, rather than turning people away, the bill would end up attracting more immigrants. They accused the Democrats of shoving the bill through without debate.
First of all, it's a bad bill. It had closed rules. Here's something of immigration that is so tied to the American thread of the fabric of what built us, and we don't take any amendments. It's a closed rule. I said this to my leadership, and I'll say it to this leadership. Bad process builds bad policy, builds bad politics.
But Representative Raul Grijalva said the bill is the right thing to do for dreamers and long overdue.
I believe we have the votes to pass it, and that's good. This is long overdue. This will be, at least from the House of Representatives, a break from this deadlock of not being able to talk about immigration other than the wall.
While the bill passed the House, its chances are not as good in the Senate, and even less certain if it passes the Senate and heads to President Trump's desk for his signature. In Washington, D.C., Julian Paras, Cronkite News.
The Arizona Supreme Court has a new justice after a private Capitol ceremony was held Monday night. James P. Bean was sworn in by Secretary of State Katie Hobbs. Governor Ducey and the 6 other justices were present. He will be replacing John Palander, who retired March 1st. Bean was an appeals court judge since 2016 and was previously a Maricopa County Superior Court judge. He was also a legislative assistant in the Arizona Senate. Ducey chose Bean in April from a list of 5 nominees. He will have another spot to fill when Chief Justice Scott Bales retires on July 31st. Trump's latest tariffs threat between the US and Mexico has importers worried for their jobs, many of whom are Trump voters. They warn him not to follow through with the tariffs. Most affected by the recent threat are fruit and vegetable importers. Jamie Chamberlain, who is the president of Chamberlain Distributing, has his main facility in Nogales, Arizona. He says he couldn't even imagine them going up 15 or 20%, and it would kill his business. Chamberlain imports all of his goods from Mexico at an estimated £6.3 billion a year. As a whole, the US imports $26 billion of agricultural products from Mexico each year. Trump plans to raise the tariffs as quick as next week, which leaves business owners alarmed and nervous.
It's no secret that Arizona has been growing fast, increasing our population by 40% from 1990 to 2000. By 2015, it went up another 7%. As a result, our economy has been booming. According to a recent study by WalletHub.com, Arizona's overall economy ranks 11th nationally. We ranked 4th nationally in both GDP growth and non-farm payrolls. These were two of the many indicators the survey took into account. The study was ultimately consolidated into 3 categories: economic activity, economic health, and innovation potential. Our job market continues to grow as well, increasing about 3% in the last year. With jobs available and more people moving here, we will keep rising.
While the economy may be booming, not everyone is financially secure. Cronkite News reporter Love Jr. shows us some resources that may help from our Washington bureau.
Just because someone is poor doesn't mean they don't think about money. In fact, David Henderson of Family Independence Initiative say they may think about it more.
The important thing to remember is that low-income families are highly economically rational and really in tune with their finances.
Henderson was one of the panelists at an Aspen Institute forum on short-term financial stability and problems the working class are having to get above poverty line. Genevieve Melford says it isn't for lack of trying.
For a lot of people, they are lacking routinely positive cash flow, and also, especially if they have the first problem, it can be really hard to build up liquid savings, and also people may lack access to high-quality credit.
The first step can be setting a budget, even for those on food stamps. It's why St. Vincent de Paul and Phoenix teamed with banks and credit unions for financial literacy for their clients.
Focusing on what does it mean to budget with food stamps and how to make that make sense, as well as focusing on paying off debt and credit.
Henderson says debt is not necessarily negative.
Mortgage debt, it's debt. Is that necessarily bad? I don't think so. Educational debt is sort of to further yourself. Is it true that all low-income families are necessarily indebted? Not at all. There's a mix.
But not all debt is good, says Melford, which is why she suggests that low-income families focus on short-term stability, creating enough financial cushion to get past the occasional empty pocket.
Without it, it's so much harder to make progress toward the things that you care about in life, investments in yourself and your family, and really progress toward your life goals.
That's easier said than done.
Often people may not have that because they don't have totally consistent or predictable income, or because they don't have enough protection against major economic shocks, like a medical cost, for example, if they don't have health insurance.
For those shocks, McMahon says St. Vincent de Paul has resources such as food, clothing, and rental assistance.
We have programs in place to assist those families so that they are not ending up on the street in an even worse situation.
In Washington, Love Jr.'s Cronkite News.
Drug experts say a dangerous combination of heroin and carfentanil is now being found in southern Arizona. The drug is known as purple heroin and is said to be extremely dangerous. Health officials say carfentanil alone is 100 times more powerful than fentanyl. The drug first became popular in Canada and has been spreading ever since. The extent of how far it has spread is not yet known. Health officials are saying people need to be aware of how dangerous this drug is.
The city of Mesa had a gift to give to the city of Guaymas, Mexico, and it came with sirens. Cronkite News reporter Jessie Jo Pauley was there this morning, and she fills us in on what it is.
This gift was possible thanks to the Mesa Sister Cities program. The idea is that now residents of Guaymas will be able to get the medical care they need much faster. On 4 wheels and tied with a big red bow, this Mesa ambulance sits waiting to meet its new owners, the people of Guaymas, Mexico. Richard Thompson of the Mesa Chamber's Veteran Program explains how the gift came to be.
We impounded this ambulance through the city. When the owner didn't come and pick it up, we ended up getting an abandoned title through it, through the Department of Motor Vehicles. And then just a light bulb went off. I remember we were a member of Mesa's Sister Cities.
Mesa Sister Cities is an organization dedicated to building and promoting international relationships and friendships. Their program includes 5 different countries like Mexico. Today, this vehicle is making the trek down to Guaymas, Mexico, where it'll begin its new life as an ambulance for the Guaymas people. Officials from both cities agree the ambulance will be a big help to the Guaymas community. As it was being donated, Mesa Mayor John Giles spoke about the relationship between Mesa and the Mexican city.
A lot of genuine affection for one another.
And speaking through an interpreter, Guaymas officials reciprocated that affection.
You guys greet them with open arms, and now he understands what it means to be loved by a sister city.
As the ambulance takes off to its new Mexican home, Wayne Ballmer with Mesa Sister Cities had this to say.
Mesa's not building walls, they're building friendships.
In addition to Guaymas and Mexico, cities in Canada, Peru, New Zealand, and China are also part of the program, which aims to promote international friendships through mutual respect, understanding, and cooperation. In the Broadcast Center, Jesse Jopali, Cronkite News.
Up next, planning a trip to Cuba may now prove harder than it was before.
The Trump administration is making major restrictions for U.S. citizens to travel there. We'll share the details surrounding these new regulations and how they may affect you.
And why local Tucson astronomers and stargazers are concerned about the launch of new satellites and the effect they may have on the night sky.
Welcome to another edition of Cronkite Sports Now. I'm Taylor Rocha. Let's talk sports.
For the latest on local sports and beyond, we've got you covered.
Let's do this thing.
We challenge reporters to go beyond, a game story. We want stories with depth.
It's just a crucial step from the college experience into the professional experience while you're still in school.
At Cronkite Sports Now, watch the journalists of tomorrow cover sports today.
Here at Cronkite News, we have producers who craft shows that make an impact on our community. Our broadcasts allow students to be involved in all levels of production, from producing to directing. We are guided by highly respected professionals who mentor the journalists of tomorrow. From technical directing to teleprompting and beyond, our production crew works tirelessly to produce meaningful and award-winning shows. We are Cronkite News on Arizona PBS.
With wildfires, a scarcity of water, and other environmental issues facing the Earth today, it's critical to stay up to date with local impacts of a changing climate. That's why we created Elemental, covering sustainability, a multimedia collaboration between public television and radio stations. From climate change to water conservation to renewable energy and much more, Elemental covers the latest in sustainability news. Find our stories on our website, elementalreports.com.
President Trump spent the second day of his state visit to the UK focused on transatlantic diplomacy, holding meetings with outgoing Prime Minister Theresa May.
His day was mostly dominated by talks concerning the UK's exit from the European Union and the possibility of Prime Minister Theresa May stepping down this Friday. Despite the ongoing protests all around the London streets, the president voiced his agreement on the decision to separate from the EU.
Yeah, I would think that it will happen, and it probably should happen. This is a great, great country, and it wants its own identity.
May's failure to come to an agreement with the EU leaders has led to her stepping down. President Trump shared that he would have sued them if he were her. The president also commented that he believes Boris Johnson would be suitable as May's replacement.
The Trump administration is making it much harder for Americans to visit Cuba. The Treasury announced new regulations Tuesday that block Americans visiting the island through organized tour groups, which is the most common way U.S. citizens travel into Cuba. The restriction applies to cruise ship passengers whose trips are arranged as organized tours. It also applies to educational travel as well. In a statement, the Treasury Department said it will deny permission for private and corporate aircraft and boats as well. The administration says the measures are a response to what it calls Cuba's destabilizing role in the Western Hemisphere, including support for the government of President Nicolas Maduro in Venezuela.
Washington, D.C. Attorney General Karl Racine is filing lawsuit against pharmaceutical giant Purdue Pharma and a former executive, Richard Sackler. The suit accuses Sackler and Purdue of making false and misleading claims about the safety and effectiveness of opioids. According to the lawsuit, the goal was to get more people to take the drugs and increase profits. California's Attorney General Xavier Becerra also announced today that California's government will also be suing the opioid makers.
Purdue and the Sacklers
traded the health and well-being of Californians for profit and created an unprecedented national public health crisis in the process. But we will hold them accountable.
Sackler and Purdue are accused of claiming the opioids weren't addictive and pushing doctors to prescribe them for longer and longer periods and at higher doses. The suit also alleges they claimed opioids were safer than over-the-counter painkillers and advocated treating opioid addiction with more opioids. Dozens of states and about 2,000 local and tribal governments have sued Purdue Pharma for its role in the opioid epidemic.
We're about 10 days out from the official start of Arizona's monsoon season.
But don't expect rain on June 15th. Coming up, details on what meteorologists say we should expect from this year's rainy season.
As journalists at Cronkite News, we report on stories that matter to you by focusing on the local impact. We dig deeper and work tirelessly to keep you informed.
Live in Wickerburg.
Live in Los Angeles.
In Cleveland, in Washington, in Louisville.
From Jerusalem.
Live in Philadelphia. From around the world to right here in Phoenix.
At Cronkite News, we report the facts and stick to the truth.
I'm Judy Woodruff, anchor and managing editor of the PBS NewsHour. The journalists of tomorrow face a fast-changing media landscape, but quality news remains vitally important to our communities, our country, and our world. At ASU's Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communication, students learn solid, reliable reporting, holding the powerful accountable, and rebuilding the public's trust. The Cronkite School and Arizona PBS, preparing the next generation for a stronger future of journalism.
Monsoon season is approaching, but the National Weather Service predicts it will start later than normal.
Cronkite News reporter Amanda Slee joins us with tips on what to expect.
Monsoon season in the Phoenix area usually hits July 4th, but Ken Waters says that this year will be a little different.
Notice it because the dew point goes up, which means the humidity goes up, and we all feel it when we go outside.
Monsoons bring many hazards both in your home and out driving. That's why Salt River Project representatives urge you to keep a kit ready with supplies.
Remembering to have, things like a can opener that is not electric, because obviously the electricity could be out for an extended power amount of time depending on outages that occur. Having things like batteries that are also charged and ready to go, having portable chargers completely charged as well for your cell phones that we rely on.
Power outages during monsoon season mean possible downed lines. Scott Cars with APS demonstrates with a hot dog what happens when you touch one of those lines.
We used 7,000 volts to energize the hot dog, but that was less than 1 amp. And so what you'd be exposed to on a real power line would be hundreds, maybe even 1,000 times larger than that.
Driving is another hazard during these big storms. Hydroplaning is a common thing when it comes to monsoon season, and what officers want to get out is that it's better to slow down than spin out. Phoenix police say 3 factors play into hydroplaning: speed, low tread, and how much water is on the road.
It's always the first 10 minutes that can be the most dangerous, and that's because on the roadway, cars as they drive day after day after day, they drop oil and other debris from their vehicles, other fluids, that when the rain first comes, it causes those fluids to rise to the surface. So essentially, in the first 10 minutes, you can be driving on an oil slick.
With wet roads also comes the potential for flooding. The City of Phoenix storm response team travels out to flooded areas. They set up a command center to vacuum up water and keep people out of the area.
There's potential there could be a hole in the street, potholes where we don't know. The water is running through the street. and just if they see the area, turn around and just avoid it.
As you can see, there's a lot of teams that go into making sure monsoon season happens as safe as possible. In Phoenix, Amanda Slee, Cronkite News.
Now, while monsoon season may not be here quite yet, summer definitely feels like it is finally here.
It did feel pretty hot today. Lindsay, how's our 7-day forecast looking?
Welcome to your weather update. I'm Lindsay Amundsen. Let's take a look at the current temperatures here in Arizona. In Phoenix, we're sitting at 97 degrees. Heading up north, we're in the mid-60s, 68 degrees in the Grand Canyon. And then heading back down south towards Tucson, we're sitting at 93 degrees. But over in Lake Havasu and Bullhead City, they've already hit triple digits. And if you're looking to plan your day tomorrow and want to get outside, I suggest heading out early. At 8 a.m., we'll be in the low 80s and only increasing throughout the day, hitting our high of 101 degrees at 4 p.m. Our first projected triple digits since May 15th. And then looking into Thursday and Friday, we'll be sticking in those triple digits, 102 on Thursday, 100 on Friday, and then into the weekend, we'll be sticking around 99 on Saturday, 103 on Sunday, and then up to 105 on Monday and Tuesday. Live in the Weather Center, I'm Lindsay Amundsen.
The recent launch of several SpaceX satellites has some Tucson stargazers and astronomers concerned. They're worried about how this will affect the International Dark Sky Association, which exists to prevent light pollution to allow better stargazing. They say the satellites impact the night sky due to the reflective solar panels and overall metallic bodies that are visible to the naked eye during the nighttime. SpaceX sent 60 little satellites into orbit on May 23rd to help boost global internet coverage. SpaceX's spokeswoman says the satellite's visibility will dramatically decrease as they orbit to a greater distance.
There are many forms of exercise, no matter what the circumstance is.
Find out how one yoga instructor is doing things a little differently and creating a great experience for her clients that aren't your normal fitness buffs.
Cronkite News, weeknights at 5 on Arizona PBS.
Hello from the children of planet Earth.
Exploring, it's the lifeblood of the mission.
Human beings are a curious bunch.
What are we going to see when we get really close?
Just because an idea is crazy, it's not necessarily wrong.
We were on our way.
You don't get anywhere until you've tested the limits.
That carries an intensity you can't imagine.
You could hear people just, whoa.
Oh my God, absolutely spectacular.
It's a rush.
We ask a lot of our heroes.
We are at a remarkable moment.
We're going farther than any exploration ever has.
The Palazzo Senior Living Community celebrated National Senior Health and Fitness Day on May 29th by holding exercise classes like Tai Chi and chair yoga.
Chair yoga is a form of yoga originally designed for senior citizens or people with limited mobility. I was able to check out this low-strain adaptive exercise.
Up, reach,
Evangeline Gallegos is 86 years old and exercises every day. She says she's been practicing yoga for years, and chair yoga helps her stay active.
For me, it makes me feel good. Right. And I'm gonna be this way forever. As long as I'm alive, I'll be taking care of me.
Instead of using yoga mats on the floor, practicers use chairs to achieve modified poses. Zoe Bellinghausen has taught chair yoga for 3 years and says the practice makes a real difference in the flexibility of senior citizens.
Some of them came in really not being able to even put their hands over their heads, and now they can stretch up and really move around.
The Palazzo hosts modified activities like chair yoga to help improve senior citizens' mobility and even prevent falls. But the benefits are not just physical. Chair yoga can help practicers stay mentally fit as well.
And then it's also good for their mind, you know, I mean, like just taking a moment to just take some deep breaths and calm down and really focus it helps, I mean, in so many aspects, so.
Gallegos says staying active makes her happy, and she enjoys the friendships she's made through her chair yoga class.
I talk to them, they ask me how I am, and we ask each other stuff. We get along good, and we love the place.
Gallegos plans to practice chair yoga as long as her body will allow her, proving yoga is for every age. In Phoenix, Kyla Wilcher, Cronkite News. The Palazzo offers these same classes weekly for its residents. That's it for Cronkite News tonight. Thanks for joining us. And for top Arizona students anytime, go to cronkitenews.azpbs.org.